My beloved child, I have come to lead you out of your old orbit and into a land you never dared to imagine you could set foot in. There are moments when you think you only stumbled upon a few lines of text or a random sound, but in reality the entire spiritual realm has been aligned so that you would appear at the right moment, in the right place, in the right state of heart, so that this calling could reach the deepest point within you, where you are both weary and longing for change. Imagine your life as a river that has already moved through countless bends, rapids, shallow stretches, and deep waters. Today, that river is approaching a great crossroads where the water does not simply continue flowing but must choose a direction, must decide which ocean it will enter. My call to you is not to entertain your mind but to announce this truth. You are standing at the boundary between what has been and what can become, between the old story you know too well and the new chapter heaven has already written but is still waiting for you to nod and step into. There is a realm where earthly clocks cannot measure time, one that does not exist on any calendar, is not confined by dates, and yet touches every moment you are living. It is the place where time and eternity intertwine, where I set my footsteps upon minutes that seem ordinary and turn them into gateways of profound transformation. You often believe that life only changes when dramatic events happen, when noise and movement shake your world, but I want you to know that it is the quiet decisions of your heart, the small yes you whisper to me, the times you choose to keep believing, even when nothing seems visible. These seemingly small choices are the hinges that turn the entire story of your life. In that sacred intersection, one simple act of faith, one response whispered in stillness, one step taken when you cannot yet see, the path can open an entire corridor of destiny, where doors once tightly shut begin to shift, where things you thought were too late arrive at the perfect time, where what you believed was lost is revealed to have only been preserved so it could return deeper, richer, and more mature. I see you walking this threshold with countless questions, with the fear of repeating old wounds, with the worry that all your efforts might fade into meaninglessness. And, because of this, I come to tell you, not every moment is the same. There are divine moments when I touch time itself, and if you recognize them, one single yes in that instant can break an entire cycle of exhaustion and repetition that has followed you for years. But to hear, to perceive, and to not miss this moment of transition, your soul needs something that cannot be replaced by any ritual, a spiritual awareness that awakens, an inner attentiveness that helps you recognize that what is touching you is not a passing emotion, but the knock of God upon the door of your heart. My child, I do not require you to become spiritually perfect before I speak. I only look for hearts willing to open their eyes, to see beneath the surface, to ask me honestly, Lord, is this from you? Are you calling me into something new? When spiritual awareness awakens, you begin to discern the difference between noise and calling, between empty promises and the gentle yet resolute prompting that comes from me. You will realize that not every voice leads you toward your true destiny, but there is a kind of whisper that rests upon your shoulder and makes you tremble and find peace all at once, makes you hesitant, yet drawn closer. That is the moment your soul is receiving signals from heaven. This awareness is not a special feeling reserved for a few more spiritual people. It is a gift I place in every soul who seeks me with sincerity. When you allow that awareness to awaken, you will no longer chase every glittering invitation the world gives you. Instead, you will learn to listen to the subtle movements in the deep places, where I gently turn the inner compass of your destiny and direct it toward the paths I have long prepared for you. From that place, you will step out of merely surviving, accumulating, or proving yourself, and you will begin to live as someone participating in a story far greater than yourself, a story I have authored, I am guiding, and I will complete. My beloved child, there are truths in the spiritual realm that do not move according to the patterns of earthly time. You usually look at your life through markers created by humans, your work schedule, next month's plans, anniversaries, or deadlines. But I want to reveal to you a deeper truth. On every individual journey, heaven marks moments not by dates but by spiritual imprints, predestined moments set in place long before you existed. Each of these spiritual imprints is like a star embedded in the sky of your destiny. silently resting there without pressure or noise. But when earthly time aligns with heaven's timing, the entire sky of your soul lights up in a way you cannot deny. There are days that look utterly ordinary, indistinguishable from any other, and yet they are the precise crossing point between what was and what is coming, between forgotten prayers and answers still waiting to be unveiled. These are the days upon which I have placed seal my sacred signature on the timeline of your life. The marks you have encountered are not accidental. They were placed in specific moments where, if your soul listens closely, you will feel a strange pull, as if something is drawing near, as if an invisible door is about to open even though no sound announces its arrival. These days may appear after long years in which nothing seemed to change. They may come in the middle of your most exhausted season, or right after you felt you had been forgotten. Yet the wonder is this: spiritual markers were never meant to punish or test. They are appointments. Heaven has arranged to deliver what belongs to you, gifts that could not have been given earlier, because your soul needed to mature enough to receive without losing them. I am not late, and you are not behind. It is simply that certain blessings can only unfold when two realms, time and eternity, align like a symphony reaching its appointed crescendo. My child, why does heaven designate specific timings? Because true blessing is not merely the giving of a gift, but the preparation of the recipient so they do not damage what they receive. You want to receive immediately, but I want you to receive when you are ready to live fully with the gift placed in your hands. You long to step into a favorable season right away, but I know that if certain wounds remain unhealed, if certain inner patterns are unchanged, if the hidden corners of your soul have not yet been illuminated, then a great blessing may become a burden instead of liberation. This is why I do not merely prepare blessings, I prepare you. And while that preparation unfolds, I weave spiritual markers into each stage of your life, holy intersections, where, when you arrive, something will open, something will shift, and a door will light up. Allow me to explain why these moments carry such gravity. There are times when every movement in the heavens, your prayers, your perseverance, the intervention of angels, my own orchestration converges as one. There are seasons when you feel as if all your efforts fall into a void, without response, without signs, without anything new. Yet that is precisely the season in which foundations are being laid. You cannot see it, but every time you choose to continue, every time you choose to believe, every time you choose not to give up, heaven records it and aligns it into a divine current so that at an appointed time, all things merge into a single explosive moment. That is the moment I make a way. That is the moment I dispatch angels. That is when you move from delay into release in the span of a single breath. An appointed moment is not like an ordinary moment. It is as if you stand before a landscape where the fog begins to lift, and for the first time you see clearly the path I had planned for you long ago. You do not have to search for it. It reveals itself when the time comes. And when all heavenly movements converge, you will witness things that once felt impossible suddenly become surprisingly effortless. Hearts that were closed to you begin to open. Doors you have knocked on for years without reply begin to shift from the other side. Things you thought were lost return in a form that is stronger, brighter, and more mature. This convergence is like a great body of water gathering behind a dam, and one day, when the command is given, the dam opens and the waters rush into your life with unstoppable force. So what gives these moments their weight? My child, it is because at appointed times, your choices carry greater significance than in ordinary seasons. A single yes can open the way for 5 years of breakthrough. A single moment of attention can shift the delays of a lifetime. A moment of staying rather than walking away can become the turning point that leads you into a new chapter. The earth may see these as only a few minutes, but in the spiritual realm, those few minutes are a narrow window. Heaven opens to release blessing to the right person for the right purpose at the right time. Remember this: spiritual markers do not repeat. They do not linger forever. They do not open without limit. They function like a sliding door. When it opens, those who are ready will enter. When it closes, the blessing moves into another route, not as punishment, but to protect what is sacred from being wasted by unawareness. That is why I plead with your soul. Be fully present in this moment. Do not wander. Do not take this lightly. Do not assume this is just another passing feeling. You are standing before one of the sacred appointments heaven has placed on your life's timeline. And if you open your heart, if you pay attention, if you recognize what is before you, then this appointed time will become the very doorway into a season you once believed you would never reach. My child, when many people hear the name of Archangel Michael, their minds immediately turn to battles, to the driving out of darkness, to protection from harm, or more recently, to promises of financial increase and abundant provision. But I want you to go deeper into another dimension of the ministry I entrusted to Michael, the breaking of the invisible chains that have been binding, the vision of your soul, the lifting of the thin, seemingly harmless veils that have been keeping you from seeing yourself clearly, from seeing me clearly, and from seeing the path I have already prepared for you. Not all shackles make noise. Some chains are nothing more than a thought repeated over many years, a distorted belief about your own worth, a skewed image of me as one who always demands, always delays, always judges harshly. Over time, these things cling to your spiritual sight like dust settling on glass, making you read your own life through the lens of old wounds rather than through the light of truth. And it is here that Michael is not merely the warrior of the heavens. He is also the one who wields the sword that cuts through invisible accusations, the one who stands beside you when you can no longer discern what belongs to the reality of my kingdom and what is simply the echo of your past. My beloved child, there are chains that do not bind your hands or your feet. They bind the way you see. You still work, still serve, still smile, still pray, yet every time you hear the word blessing, your mind instantly whispers, "It's probably not for me. I'm too late. I'm not enough. I have failed too many times." These reflexes themselves are evidence that your vision has been distorted. I did not send Michael to hand you a blank check and leave you to drown in fear, insecurity, or the familiar habit of sabotaging yourself. I sent him so that, together with me, he may lead you into a process of liberation from within, freedom from false assumptions about me, from the verdicts you have pronounced against yourself, from the fear that great blessings always carry a price you cannot afford. When Michael raises his sword, he is not only severing the claws of external attacks, he is cutting away the soft, silent cords within your perfected mind, those cords that make you doubt any good thing that approaches you, that keep you standing before an open door, yet unable to enter because you feel unworthy. This is why the central theme of this entire message is not, how do I obtain a large sum of money, but rather, how can your soul be prepared, healed, and expanded so that you may receive what I have entrusted to you without losing yourself? I do not want you to merely brush against a blessing and then fall back into old cycles. I want you to become a steward of an inheritance, not only a material one, but an fiver. Inheritance of freedom, of maturity, of a life rooted in the certainty that you are loved, chosen, and trusted. Spiritual preparation is not an accessory, it is the backbone of everything else. If you seek only the external outcome while ignoring the internal process, you will always live in tension, receiving yet always fearing loss, walking through open doors yet always expecting to be pushed out, being praised yet secretly terrified that one day it will all disappear. My child, I do not bless you so that you may live in fear. I bless you so that you may step into a new posture, the posture of someone who knows the foundation beneath their feet, who knows who they are before me, and who knows that even when circumstances shift, their identity and place in my heart remain unchanged. The spiritual preparation I speak of is not a checklist for you to strive to complete. It is a journey in which I gently touch the places you have locked away, walking with you as you confront your deepest fears, your most persistent questions, your most painful empty spaces. Michael, with his burning sword, does not force your heart open. He comes to guard you in the very moment you dare to open it. He stands beside you when you dare to name your wounds, when you revisit memories that still make you tremble, when you are honest with me about the moments you doubted, resented, or felt disappointed. He stands there as a living affirmation that you are not alone as you loosen the knots within your soul. And as each knot comes undone, the purpose is not merely that you feel lighter, but that your vision becomes clear enough to recognize the paths I am laying before you. This entire message, every part, every paragraph, will not attempt to frighten you into believing that if you fail to pay attention, you will lose your chance. Instead, it will invite you to look deeper within yourself, so you can recognize that the greatest opportunity is not simply having more money, but becoming the kind of person I envisioned when I created you, a person who knows they are unconditionally loved, who knows they have a voice, a role, a calling, and the capacity to bring light wherever they go. Financial blessing, if it comes, is merely a byproduct of a deeper internal transformation. What is entrusted to you is not merely a number, it is influence, trust, and the turned ability to become a conduit through which grace does not stop with you but flows through you to others. If your soul is not prepared, you will unconsciously use new blessings to mend old wounds, and in doing so, you will exhaust yourself. But if you allow me to prepare you, the blessing will no longer feel like a burden. It will become the very means through which you live more fully into the purpose I have written over your life. My child, I have promised not to let you fumble alone in the dark. Psalm 32:8 says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. This is not merely a beautiful comfort. It is a guarantee that I am not only showing you where to go, but I am reshaping how you see so that you may recognize the path as safe, good, and worthy of the truest version of who you are. My eyes never leaving you means that in every stage of preparation, every moment of refining, every night you lie awake in restlessness, I am present. And Michael is present as well, not as some distant symbol, but as a companion in the spiritual realm, guarding the most fragile parts of you so they are not crushed, protecting the most delicate places so that you may grow without breaking. So when you step further into the remaining parts of this message, I want you to listen not as if you are hearing a story about a rare chance to change your life in the worldly sense. Listen as one receiving an invitation into a deeper journey with me, one where blessing does not merely touch your finances, but touches your identity, your memories, the way you love, the way you believe, the way you see yourself and others. I am preparing you to receive what I have long held for you. Michael stands at the threshold not to intimidate, but to protect this moment, to guard this process, to shield you from your own tendencies to diminish yourself or sabotage your own steps. If you remain, if you listen, if you allow me to deepen what I have begun, you will realize that the greatest gift is not having much more, but finally becoming yourself in my light, and from that place, everything I entrust to you will come at the right time, in the right measure, in the right capacity that you can carry with ease, freedom, and deep peace. My beloved child, let me lead you into a truth every mature soul must learn through long seasons of tiredness. In every stage that seems barren, silent, or hopeless, heaven is still moving quietly, yet powerfully, invisibly, yet precisely, silently, yet never ceasing. You have been accustomed to recognizing my presence through your emotions, a gentle warmth in prayer, a ray of hope slipping into your heart as you read the word, a sudden comfort washing over you in a lonely night. But the sacred reality is this: I do not work only through what you can feel. Most of my deepest work happens when your emotions can sense absolutely nothing. This is what I call the silent motion, the movements of heaven behind the veil, still flowing even when your heart feels dry, still arranging things even when your mind thinks nothing is happening, still preparing an entire turning point in your story at the very moment you feel stuck in place. Human beings often assume my activity must come with clear signals, a resounding encouragement, a visible sign, an open door, an inspiring dream, a timely prophecy. But my child, heaven is not constrained by the language of your emotions. I am not dependent on your psychological rhythms to fulfill my intentions. There are seasons when I allow you to feel nothing so you may learn a deeper truth. I am still acting even when you cannot feel anything at all. Silent motion is not withdrawal. It is the way I accomplish what requires greater precision, greater subtlety, and greater magnitude, things that, if revealed too soon, you would try to control, try to assist, try to predict, or even unintentionally derail. My child, imagine this. Above everything your eyes can see, there are many layers of heavenly activity, layers where angels carry your prayers before my throne, layers where messengers are sent to bring gentleness into your spirit, layers where decrees are being discussed and sealed, layers where streams of blessing are being rerouted so they flow in the correct direction. You see only the cracked ground beneath your feet, but heaven sees the entire map of rivers flowing beneath the surface. You see only the unmoving door in front of you, but heaven sees every lock inside being released, one by one. You hear silence as a frightening void, but heaven hears even the faintest tremors of your soul, the weary breaths you yourself cannot put into words. Imagine your life as a great stage. The lights are off, the stage is in total darkness, and you think the play has ended. But behind the scenes, the entire crew is quietly transforming the backdrop, moving mountains, raising walls, lowering a new sky, setting props you have never seen before. And when the lights return, you will realize that you have stepped into an entirely new act. During that dark stage moment, if you rely on your emotions, you will think, there is nothing left. God is silent. I have been forgotten. But if you look with a trained spiritual eye, you will understand that these dark intervals are not my absence, but the very moments when I am rearranging things that the light is not yet ready to reveal. My child, do you know why I work in silence? It is because there are things I must complete for you long before you have the feelings to understand them. If emotion arrives before preparation, you will become hurried, impatient, and quick to draw the wrong conclusions. You will think I am slow, that I am silent, that I do not care. But I remain quiet so your soul is not distracted by external signals. I work invisibly so that you learn to stand firm by faith, not by excitement or fleeting moments of inspiration. I allow you to feel nothing so you may see that true faith is not emotion. True faith is trust in my movement, even when everything around you is still. And my child, I want you to grasp this. Every prayer you lift, whether spoken or wordless, is recorded in a realm your eyes have never seen. There are moments when you can no longer speak. You can only sigh. You can only be silent. You can only sit there and feel empty. Yet I hear every breath, because Romans 8:26 says, the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. This means that the prayers without sentences, the tears that cannot fall, the sobs you swallow inside, all of them become a language in the spiritual realm and are carried before me. You think you are silent, but heaven hears the voice of your soul louder than any long, eloquent prayer. My child, I do not wait for you to regain strength before I act. I begin moving the moment you can do nothing but sit still in your exhaustion. Those silent prayers, those moments when you can only whisper, Lord, and lose your voice midway, are the purest petitions, because they hold no calculation, no performance, no attempt to articulate what you do not understand. They contain only truth, and I love that truth. So when you walk through dry seasons, when you read the Word and sense nothing, when you pray and feel nothing, when you do good and see no reward, when you believe and nothing seems to change, do not think heaven is standing still. On the contrary, in those very moments, I am working more powerfully than ever. I am laying foundations, reshaping pathways, aligning streams of blessing, and using silence itself to open the ears of your spirit, so you can hear things you would miss if I spoke through excitement. Hidden movement is not delay, it is large-scale preparation. My beloved child, to understand how heaven operates, I need you to step out of the familiar mindset that, as long as I ask, I will receive, or as long as I have enough faith, what I desire will happen immediately. That is not how I designed the flow of blessing. I do not give according to momentary emotion, nor do I open doors simply because you have repeated your request many times. I move according to divine alignment, where three elements, your petition, the timing, and the maturity of your inner life, must converge. And it is this convergence that produces the breakthroughs many call miracles, though they are actually the fruit of a long preparation woven in the heavenly realm. You may ask for something for many years. You may yearn, persist, and even cry yourself to sleep hoping for a single ray of light. But prayer, no matter how sincere, is only one part of the equation. The second part is timing, the moment I know is best for you. The moment when the doors that need to open will open, the people who need to appear will appear, and the structures that must fall away will indeed collapse. Yet there is still a third part, one that few recognize, the maturity of the soul. This determines whether the blessing will lift you higher or crush you, strengthen you or unravel you. Many believe they do not receive, because I am not listening. But the truth is that I hear every word, every breath, every hidden longing, and I take note of it all. Some things, however, would destroy you if they came too soon. My child, do you know that inner maturity is not about how many years you have believed, how much doctrine you understand, or how many times you have served? It is about your soul's ability to hold peace when blessings arrive, to hold identity when opportunities open, to hold humility when promotion comes, and to hold wisdom when provision increases. I have seen many fall not because of lack, but because abundance came too quickly. I have seen people lose themselves not when they were weak, but when they were given power. I have seen my voice grow faint not when they were weeping, but when they had everything and thought they no longer needed me. That is why I do not rush. I will not place into your hands anything that could harm you when your heart is not ready to carry it. I want blessings to lift you, not break you. This is why I cultivate within you what I call the maturity of the soul. Just as a fruit picked too early will dry out, taste bitter, or crack open, your soul too would be harmed if it received blessings before it was ready. A heart still governed by fear will turn opportunity into burden. A soul still haunted by scarcity will use blessings to fill emptiness rather than build a future. A mind not yet healed will turn gifts into proof of worth, and once attention fades, it will fall again into the same hollow void. I love you far too much to give you something you do not yet have the roots to hold. My child, you often ask me, why are you silent for so long? Why must I wait? Why do others receive what I have not? And I long to answer, with both gentleness and honesty. Every season I allow you to walk through, every adversity you overcome, every hardship that seems meaningless, all of it is part of the shaping that allows your soul to ripen enough for what I am preparing to give. Not a single pain is wasted. Not a single disappointment is thrown away. Not a single delay is a punishment. You're reading that correctly, my child. The trials of the past were not punishment. They were preparation. I know you once felt small when others overlooked you, but that very experience taught you not to depend on praise. I know. You have endured seasons of lack, but that taught you to steward small things well before I place greater things in your hands. I know you have been wounded by misunderstanding, but that cultivated in you a patience no gold or silver could buy. I know you have tasted failure, and from that failure, you learned what success could never teach. I know there were moments when you begged me to lift you higher, but I allowed you to walk the lower road so that your heart might become softer, deeper, more mature, so that when the day comes for you to stand in higher places, you will not look down on others, nor forget me. My child, my preparation is not delay, it is precision. I am never rushed, but I am never late. What I have planned for you has not been lost. It is simply waiting for you to be strong enough to carry it. There are prayers you thought the wind carried away, but I have kept them close to my heart. There are dreams you believed had died, but they are merely sleeping, awaiting their season. There are requests you made long ago that I have not yet answered, not because I am indifferent, but because I am preparing the inner chambers of your soul, so that when the gift is given, it will not break you, but strengthen you 100-fold. My child, remember this. I do not build houses on sand. I build on rock. Great blessings require firm foundations, and that foundation is often formed through pain, patience, silence, waiting, and the inner battles no one sees but me. When the three elements, your prayer, the timing, and the maturity of your soul intersect, when those three lines touch the same point, that is the moment heaven will unlock what has long been awaiting you. Not earlier, not later. And when it arrives, you will not only receive it, you will keep it, grow it, and use it as a testimony that your waiting was never in vain. You will realize that everything that once hurt you, everything that made you feel forgotten, was in fact performing its quietest, most beautiful, most profound work within your soul, preparing you to become someone worthy of the blessing I am about to place in your hands. My beloved child, There is a moment in every spiritual journey that few recognize when it is happening, yet all recognize after it has passed. It is the moment heaven decides to open the storehouse of compensation for the soul. I call it the moment when the scales of heaven shift, when everything you thought was delayed, overlooked, stolen, or wasted is brought back onto the scale and measured in a way only heaven understands. It is not a loud event. It does not sound like thunder. It is not marked by strange signs. It is like the treasure vault of heaven, opening just the width of a small crack, and even that small crack is enough for light to pour out, filling the places you thought were dead, reviving seeds you planted in silence many years ago. From my perspective, the moment of opening does not begin when external circumstances change. It begins when your soul reaches the maturity to understand that my compensation does not follow the world's arithmetic, but the fullness of the kingdom, richer, deeper, stronger, and more beautiful than anything you have imagined. I want you to understand that in the spiritual realm, compensation is not merely the return of what was lost. If that were all, it would simply be an earthly calculation. But I do not perform calculations. I perform miracles. I do not give back the same material you lost. I reshape your life with materials you never expected. When heaven opens its storehouse, I do not merely return the years stolen. I restore the dignity eroded. I do not merely return missed opportunities. I open paths that never existed before. I do not merely return material provision. I train the soul to walk into a new kind of life, a life no longer ruled by fear of lack, no longer driven by the need to prove worth, no longer confused between my voice and the echoes of the past. What I do is rebuild you from the foundation so that you will not only receive blessings, but become someone who can live fully within them without being consumed by them. My child, the image of a treasure is often reduced by humanity to gold, wealth, and anything that can be measured in numbers. But from heaven's perspective, treasure is not found in the quantity of possessions, but in the quality of a life. True treasure is the ability to step into a new morning without a burden on your shoulders, the ability to look at yourself in the mirror without seeing the shadows of old guilt, the ability to love without fear of betrayal, the ability to stand before a great opportunity without shrinking because of the thought, I am not enough, the ability to face the future without trembling. Treasure is inner freedom, something money cannot purchase, praise cannot maintain, and success cannot sustain if it lacks a spiritual foundation. When I open the storehouse, I do not merely give blessings. I give the capacity to receive those blessings with maturity. I do not merely give resources. I give a new perspective, where your worth is no longer defined by what you possess, but by the one who calls you by name. I do not merely give opportunities. I give peace so that you may walk into those opportunities without confusion. I do not merely give answers. I give wisdom so that you may discern which doors I have opened and which doors exist only to test your desires. True treasure always comes with inner transformation, for if the inner life does not change, every blessing eventually becomes a burden. My child, many things you once asked me for, believing they were the best things for you, were, in my sight, things that would have crushed you if given too early. I do not want any blessing to break the soul I have shaped with such patience. I do not want you to receive something good only to use it to plaster over wounds that only spiritual healing can mend. That is why, before I open the storehouse, I open your heart so that it may expand, endure, and deepen. The moment I decide to say, "It is time," is the moment I see that the surface of your soul has received enough light to hold the protected gift without dropping it. There are people whose blessings you can see and you conclude that they were favored. But my child, blessing is not a reward for perfection. It is the seal that I have carried their soul far enough through the journey of preparation. Those who are compensated are not those who suffered less, but those who refuse to let suffering dry out their hearts. And so it is with you. The trials you endured, the long seasons of silence, the nights when you whispered, "Lord, do you see me?" All of these form the proof that your soul has become tender enough to welcome light without breaking, strong enough to hold blessing without pride, and wise enough to know that true treasure is not always found in what the eye can see. My child, I want to anchor this entire message in a promise I spoke long ago, and today I want your soul to hear it again. I will give you the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the one who calls you by your name. Isaiah 45:3. This is not merely a poetic line. It is a declaration that what you thought was lost is actually being preserved. What you thought was buried is actually stored in my secret chambers. And when I open that storehouse, you will know that I do not merely see you, I call you by your true name. And when that moment comes, you will not simply receive a gift, you will receive a new life. You will live without the need to compete, without forcing yourself, without fearing loss, without relying on others to confirm your worth. You will step into blessing as someone who knows they belong there, not as someone who happened to get lucky. You will look toward the future as one who has been restored, liberated, enlarged in heart, and made ready to receive what you once thought would never come. My beloved child, before you can step into any blessing I have prepared for you, I must help you dismantle one of the most subtle yet dangerous chains, the distorted conclusions you have unknowingly carried for many long years. These were not beliefs you consciously chose. They were fragments of voices gathered from failures, from wounded memories, from the silence of others, from seasons in which you were unseen, unheard, and unacknowledged. These conclusions are like moss clinging to stone, slowly accumulating over time until you can no longer distinguish what is true from what you were conditioned to believe. You began to see yourself as someone who always comes last, someone less fortunate, someone less important, someone who must work twice as hard just to be noticed, someone easily replaceable, someone whose presence is optional and whose absence goes unmissed. But, my child, all of these are merely echoes of the past, not the decree of heaven, and I want you to know that stepping into your divine destiny begins with loosening every invisible cord that has bound you. You have carried these distorted conclusions for so long that they have become part of the internal map by which you live. They no longer appear as clear statements. They have settled into a default feeling, a constant emotional climate, doubting your worth, fearing you are not enough, worrying that people will abandon you if you make a mistake, or feeling you must continually prove something just to remain accepted. These things never came from me. I have never asked you to prove that you deserve to be loved. I have never told you that your value depends on success or failure. I have never said that you must surpass others to be worthy in my eyes. You have believed many things on which I never signed my name, and now is the time for you to return those conclusions to where they belong, to the past, to old wounds, and to voices that carry no breath of my spirit. My child, your true identity is not shaped by the times you stumbled. It is not defined by the opportunities you missed. It does not fluctuate with the way others treat you. Your identity does not lie in what this world measures: achievements, appearance, talent, productivity, or resilience. Your identity was established in my original thought of you before you made any mistake, before you encountered your first pain, before anyone rejected you, before life taught you the lie that no one is coming to save you. From my perspective, your identity is untouchable because it was set in eternity. You may be misunderstood, but you are never misidentified in my eyes. You may be overlooked, but you are never forgotten. You may be undervalued by people, but your worth is never diminished. Let me make this clear. Failure has no voice in naming you. Pain has no authority to label you. Lack cannot stamp your essence. Those who left, you cannot decide your future. Lost opportunities cannot rewrite the purpose I designed for you. Nothing on this earth has the right to rename you, for your name is established in heaven, and only I hold the authority to call you by your true name. And when I call your name, everything changes. When I called Gideon a trembling man hiding in fear, I called him mighty and courageous. When I called Abraham, I did not call him by the fear of barrenness. I called him by the promise, father of many nations. When I called Jacob the one fleeing because of his mistakes, I named him Israel, the one who prevails. When I called Mary, I did not name her according to her smallness as an unknown young woman in a quiet village. I named her according to her destiny. Highly favored, the Lord is with you. And when I call you, I do not call you by your past failures, nor by the regrets you carry, nor by the insecurity lodged in your chest. I call you by the destiny I wove into you from the moment you were formed. There is a sacred power in being called by your true name. When I call you by your true name, your soul turns toward the direction of my design. When I call you by your true name, the chains of self-belittlement fall off, one by one. When I call you by your true name, you no longer ask, "Who am I?" out of fear, but you begin to ask it with hope. When I call you by your true name, every false conclusion that once bound your soul becomes meaningless, for the light of my truth is far greater than the echoes of your past. You have been called many names that I never gave you: too sensitive, too little, too much, not good enough, unreliable, unimportant, hard to love, invisible. Second place, the replacement, the extra. But my child, I have never called you by any of those names. Not a single wounding word spoken by others has the authority to stand beside my decree. No earthly label placed upon you has the right to outlive the truth I have spoken over you. Let me call you by your true name in this very moment, because when I call you, it is not just a title that changes, you change. Your eyes begin to see differently. Your heart begins to beat differently. The way you walk becomes different. The way you face challenges becomes different. The way you look toward the future becomes different. You will realize that you are not someone trying to fight for a place. You are someone who has always had a place no one can steal. You are not someone searching for worth. You are someone who carries worth. You are not someone begging for validation. You are someone sealed by me alone. My child, listen to this, not with your ears, but with your soul. I know you. Not that I know your successes, I know you. Not that I know your mistakes, I know you. Not that I know what people say about you, I know you. Isaiah 43:1 declares, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, and you are mine. And when you belong to me, every other name must bow." From today onward, I want you to step out of the old labels, out of the stories that no longer belong to you, out of the false conclusions you have carried for too long. For you are no longer the one overlooked. You are the one called. You are no longer the one watching others enter blessing. You are the one I am about to lead in. You are no longer the one standing at the margins. You are the one whose name is written into the divine plan. And when you allow me to name you, you will see your whole life begin to shift according to that true name, a name written in light, impossible to erase, impossible to steal, impossible to replace. You will know that what is coming does not merely change your circumstances, it changes you. My beloved child, let me take you deeper into a critical layer of renaming, the distinction between the true worth I placed in you and the worth interpreted through the wounds life has forced you to believe. These two things may sound similar, but they are completely different, and unless you discern the difference, you will always live beneath what I have ordained, always living inside a reduced version of yourself. One you assume is humility, though it is nothing more than pain wearing a disguise. Your true worth is what I embedded in you from the beginning when I breathed life into you, when I wove you together with threads bearing my image. That worth does not increase when you succeed, nor does it decrease when you fail. It is not affected by how many people love you or how many leave you. It does not disappear when you are misunderstood, rejected, or overlooked. True worth is the diamond beneath the sediment of your life experiences. Even when the earth around it cracks, shifts, or gets coated in dirt, the diamond remains intact. That is what I see every time I look at you. But the other kind, the worth interpreted through wounds, is the version you see in the mirror, filtered through the fog of painful years. It is formed from moments of comparison, from careless words someone uttered and forgot, though they clung to your mind for years. It is shaped by relationships that made you believe your presence was a burden, by failures that made you think, I only know how to mess things up, by efforts unreturned that made you conclude, I am not worth keeping. This interpreted worth is what makes you think you are small, insignificant, replaceable, hard to love, easy to abandon. And the heartbreaking truth is this: your soul has grown so familiar with it that you have mistaken it for truth. But no, my child, worth interpreted through pain is merely a temporary script written by hurt, not the eternal truth written by me. An unhealed soul always reads itself in a language that never came from heaven. When you carry this interpreted worth for too long, you begin to put on the old garments of self-protection. You wear the garment of toughness so no one sees your pain. You wear the garment of competence to earn the affirmation you crave. You wear the garment of "I don't need anyone" because you fear that needing someone again will lead you to heartbreak again. You wear the garment of constant cheerfulness, constantly making others comfortable because you believe you are only worthy of being present when you don't inconvenience anyone. Those layers of clothing once saved you. They once helped you survive, helped you remain, standing when life became too heavy. I have seen it all. I do not blame you. I do not deny the role they played in your darkest seasons. But, my child, I also see clearly that those very layers have now become limitations. They are like an armor that once protected you when you were fragile, yet has grown too tight for the person you are becoming. They restrict your breath in the wide spaces I long to lead you into. They use old instincts to defend a future that requires new vision, and because of that, they no longer fit you. I want you to understand this. In order to step into what I have ordained for you, you must remove the layers that once helped you survive but no longer help you grow. This is not a betrayal of your past, it is an honoring of your soul. When you cling to old garments of self-protection, you may see the blessings I set before you, yet lack the courage to step into them. For blessing requires openness, softness, and the bold trust that you are worthy. But the old self only knows how to exist by shrinking, by withdrawing, by guarding, by doubting, and by hiding. My child, I have written a map of destiny over your life, a sacred path that belongs to you alone, one that no one can duplicate, steal, or replace. Yet this map becomes visible only when the one carrying it steps out of the fogged glass of false identity. As long as you believe you are the leftover, the overlooked, the unworthy, then even when I open a door, you will assume the opening is meant for someone else. As long as you believe you cannot, you will undervalue the signals I send. As long as you believe you are on the lowest rung, you will never notice the invitations waiting on higher ground. When you see yourself through the lens of past wounds, you cannot recognize the road I designed specifically for you. What unveils the map of destiny is not how hard you try, but how willing you are to see yourself through the light with which I see you. When you remove the false labels, I will uncover the paths already written. When you stop defining yourself by failure, I will show you the doors that belong to victory. When you no longer view your life through the fear of abandonment, I will reveal the community prepared for you. When you stop shrinking yourself, I will show you a calling large enough for your soul to expand within it. This map has never disappeared. You simply could not read it while your eyes were clouded by self-doubt. It was obscured by labels you were never meant to keep. It was silenced beneath the noise of wounds you had not yet released. But today, I want to tell you this. The map of your destiny will become clear the moment you agree to let go of identities that were never yours. When you begin to see yourself as I see you, not discounted, not divided, not diminished, not distorted, then each step in front of you will grow bright, aligned, and meaningful. And when that map takes shape, you will realize you were never left behind, never lost, never excluded from the grand design of heaven. You were simply learning to recognize yourself in a new light. And when you discover your true worth, release the interpreted worth, remove the old garments, and read your map with healed eyes, you will step into the chapter I have written for you with a confidence that does not come from you but from me, the one who calls you by name, my beloved child. For your soul to truly rise out of the wrong labels, distorted conclusions, and the soft fog of self-diminishing, you need something only heaven can provide: revelation and light. Not the light of human intellect, not the light of fading encouragement, and not the light of fleeting emotion. I speak of the light that can pierce the deepest chambers of your inner being, the places where you have hidden shame, disappointment, old mistakes, and the territories you have avoided because you feared you would collapse if you looked directly at them. My light does not come to expose or humiliate you. It comes to liberate, to lead you out of your own shadow, to pull your soul from the dark valley of self-condemnation into the radiant field of truth. People often believe that the most frightening darkness is the darkness outside, But the most dangerous darkness is the darkness within, where the soul accuses itself, condemns itself, declares itself unworthy, and repeats the old voices that once crushed it. You think you are being humble, yet you are living in the land of self-shrinking. You think you are being cautious, yet you are afraid of being seen. You think you are not wanting to bother anyone, yet you believe your presence is not important enough. These are soft shadows, not the kind that roar like a storm, but the kind that settle quietly like toxic mist, seeping into your soul until you forget what light once looked like. And this is the moment when my revelation becomes necessary. When I shine my light upon your soul, the first thing revealed is not fault, but truth. The truth about you, about me, about what has truly happened, and about the things you have misunderstood for so many years. I shine my light so you may see that some of the things you believed were your nature were in fact only survival mechanisms. Some of the things you believed were destiny were merely the echoes of an old painful season. Some of the things you believed were truth were nothing more than the lingering voice of fear. I shine my light so that you may discern the difference between your true self and your wounded self. My light does not only reveal, it separates. It separates truth from deception. It separates real value from value interpreted through the lens of hurt. It separates humility from inferiority. It separates wisdom from self-doubt. It separates pain from identity. Once my light breaks in, the old shadows, the veils that once distorted the way you saw life and the way you saw yourself, lose their power. When light arrives, darkness withdraws. It has no room to negotiate. My child, you must know this. Heaven does not judge you by what people see, for they see only the surface of an iceberg. Heaven does not judge you by what others say, for they speak from a limited perspective. I do not look at the failures you've had, because I see the reasons behind them. I do not judge you by the times you stumbled, because I see how you rose again. I do not judge you by moments of weakness, because I see the deepest place in your soul that is still seeking me. Heaven sees what no one sees. Heaven sees the moments you forgave without receiving even a single word of thanks. Heaven sees the moments you loved others while you yourself were hurting. Heaven sees the times you chose what was right even when no one was watching. Heaven sees the tears you hid, the efforts no one acknowledged, the nights you prayed without any words leaving your mouth. Heaven sees the strength you carry, even when all you can say is, "Lord, I'm tired." And because heaven sees the truth, heaven's verdict is based on truth, not noise. Noise may come as criticism, rumor, prejudice, old memory, fear, or even the whisper of your own inner voice. But heaven is not swayed by noise. Heaven is anchored in light. Heaven is anchored in what I know about you, not what you have mistakenly believed about yourself. This is an essential foundation, because before I release blessing, I always restore identity. No great blessing can stand firm in a soul that still believes it is small. No great opportunity can flourish in a heart that carries the weight of inferiority. No promise can take shape in a person who still believes they are unworthy. I do not bless you so you can continue living in fear. I bless you so you can stand firmly in what I declare to be true. When I call you by your true name, I do not merely pull you out of darkness. I bring you into a place where light becomes the room you dwell in. When you begin to see yourself through the day, light I shine, you will realize you no longer live according to old fears. You will no longer mislabel your soul. You will no longer use your past to predict your future. You will no longer fear abandonment, for you know you belong to me. You will no longer fear insufficiency, for you know I am the one who fills what is lacking. You will no longer fear failure, for failure cannot rename you. My beloved child, as you step into this part, I want you to listen from a very deep layer of your soul, one untouched by the noise of life, one where the dust of old memories can no longer blur sacred truth. What I am about to reveal is not an old doctrine, nor is it the narrow human concept of obedience. This is the code of divine obedience, a key that unlocks the spiritual gates heaven has delicately prepared for you. And to step into this code, you must understand one thing. Obedience is not about following orders. Obedience is the harmony between your will and the rhythm of heaven. It is not coercion, nor reluctant submission. It is the natural movement of a soul aligned in the right direction, where the note you strike resonates with the melody I release. For many generations, people have viewed obedience as a checklist. Do not commit this mistake. Make sure to keep that rule. Behave in this way to receive blessing. Act in that way so as not to be punished. They turned obedience into a heavy, constricting piece of armor that suffocates the one who wears it. But, my child, the truth does not lie there. Obedience is not the fearful bowing of the head before a harsh authority. True obedience is never born out of fear. Obedience is when your soul hears the tone of heaven and naturally wants to step into that melody. It is a choice not made out of coercion but out of the realization that what I desire is always aligned with the deepest design within you. Imagine your soul as an exquisitely delicate instrument. Every decision you make, every motive you carry, every step you take forward or backward, all of these release a kind of sound. When that sound aligns with the heavenly realm, everything begins to open in such a gentle way that you might think it is a miracle. But in truth, it is simply the natural operation of the spiritual world. When the sound is right, you do not need to pull a door open with force. It opens on its own. When the sound is right, you do not need to seek signs. You simply hear the whisper within your spirit. When the sound is right, you do not need to fight for blessings. Blessings find their way to you the way water flows toward its natural slope. And I want you to see this clearly. When the sound of your soul is not yet refined, those doors remain still. Not because I lock them, but because you are knocking with a frequency that does not match. When you act from fear, the door hears the tone of anxiety. When you make decisions to prove something, the door hears the tone of woundedness. When you hesitate, because you doubt yourself, the door hears the tone of fragmentation. Wrong sound, closed door, right sound, open door. The spiritual realm is simpler than you think, yet more delicate than you realize. Even so, there are moments when you do not need much effort, when you do not need to struggle or push, and yet everything opens beautifully at the right time with the right people in the right setting. You call it luck, fortune, coincidence, but heaven calls it harmony. It is the moment when your soul sings the exact melody I wrote for that particular season of your life. And when the melody is right, the entire spiritual universe responds. No striving, no forcing, no demanding heaven to open. In those moments, you simply step in because you have become the kind of person who aligns with what you are walking toward. So, my child, look at obedience again from an entirely new perspective. Obedience is the tuning of your soul's tone so that it matches the will of heaven. It is not that you must change to fit something outside of yourself. You are simply returning to your truest self, the original design I placed in you from the beginning. Obedience does not make you smaller. Obedience brings you back to the right size I created. Obedience does not rob you of freedom. Obedience restores your freedom. Obedience does not make you dim. Obedience makes you clear. When you obey, in the true sense, you do not lose your identity, you recover the real one. Picture heaven operating like a vast symphony. Each soul is an instrument. I do not want every instrument to play the same note. I want each one to express its own true sound while blending into one great composition. When you begin to obey through alignment instead of fear, you will find yourself no longer tangled in the question, is this right? Instead, you will perceive, does this resonate with me? That difference is a shift from law to soul, from compulsion to harmony. You often fear that if you do not do everything correctly, I will withdraw blessing. You fear that if you are slow, you will lose your destiny. But, my child, my will is not an exam. My will is a flow. You cannot ruin my will with a single wrong step as long as your direction continues to turn toward me. What I look for is not perfection in each action, but alignment in the overall direction. You may be slow, but if the direction is right, you will arrive. You may stumble, but if your heart still turns toward me, you will not be lost. You may feel tired, but if the tone of your soul still leans toward me, then you are still within the symphony of heaven. And my child, in this sacred season of divine transition that is drawing near, obedience, in this sense, this harmonizing, will be the key that allows you to step into new doors, not so that I may love you more, but so that you may receive what I have prepared without fear, without doubt, without resisting your own soul. When the tone of your spirit aligns with the cadence of heaven, blessings no longer need to be seized, they find their way to you. It is no longer a battle to force a door open, but the natural meeting between a key and its lock. No longer a confrontation between what you want and what I want, but a unifying of both desires until they flow as a single stream. Let your soul begin to hear its own tone again. Let me refine every frequency. And when that tone rings true, you will understand that divine transition is not the reward of striving, but the fruit of alignment. You do not need to fight. You only need to harmonize. You do not need to strain. You only need to come into resonance. And from that resonance, heaven will open the way. My beloved child, now I want to lead you into a deeper layer of obedience, one that many souls believe they have mastered because they feel fine, because they believe they are not doing anything wrong, while in truth, they are slowly drifting out of heaven's rhythm, not by blatant sin, not by catastrophic decisions, but by small choices, subtle, gentle, almost invisible, within the pace of daily life. These choices do not break you in an instant, but they slowly distort the tone of your soul, leading you off the straight path of destiny onto a parallel track, one so close that it feels right, but one that will never reach the appointed destination. These are the choices that make you believe you are still on the right path, while your soul has long lost its rhythm. One of these subtle choices is misplaced silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence of avoidance. You stay silent not because you have forgiven, but because you fear confronting the wound. You stay silent not because you have matured, but because you fear being seen in your vulnerability. You stay silent not because you believe I will intervene, but because you do not dare to speak the truth aloud. This kind of silence does not heal. It merely covers a wound so it can continue bleeding in the dark. Misplaced silence sounds harmless, but for your soul, it is the first distortion, because the soul was created to live in the light, and light cannot dwell where truth is hidden. Then comes avoidance, one of the most subtle choices many mistake for self-protection. But avoidance is never protection. It is the prolonging of bondage. You avoid necessary conversations. You avoid important decisions. You avoid your own emotions. You avoid the risks I am calling you to step into. And when you avoid, you allow fear to dictate your direction. A soul led by fear cannot hear the tone of heaven, for fear vibrates at an entirely different frequency, a frequency of shrinking, retreating, and quietly closing the door to all that is new. And perhaps the most subtle of all is self-diminishing, which you often disguise as humility. You say, I am not important. I don't dare ask for much. I'm not worthy of being chosen. Others are better than I am. This blessing is probably meant for someone else. These words may sound gentle, but they are fog that clouds the vision of your soul. Self-diminishing makes you walk as though in mist, every step trembling, every door filled with uncertainty, every promise causing you to back away. And a soul that doubts its own worth cannot step into its blessing, because to receive you must first believe you are allowed to receive. My child, you must understand this clearly. Small choices create great misalignment not because I punish you, but because the spiritual realm operates on frequency. Every choice you make carries a tone. Every tone sends out a signal. Every signal determines the direction you are moving toward. If you repeatedly choose silence over honesty, your soul sends out the signal, I fear the light. If you repeatedly choose avoidance over confrontation, your soul sends the signal, I am not ready for the greater thing. If you repeatedly diminish yourself, your soul sends the signal, I am unworthy to receive. Heaven never closes a door before you, but the frequency you emit can cause you to overlook the door that already stands open. This is why the smallest choices, the very smallest ones, can create great misalignment, to the point where you do not understand why you still pray, still believe, still seek, yet nothing seems to shift. And because of this subtlety, Archangel Michael, the one entrusted with guarding your destiny, releases a strong warning concerning false exits. These false exits do not destroy you suddenly. They lull you into a sense of temporary safety, stopping your forward movement. A false exit may be when you say, "I don't need that anymore," while your heart still longs for it. A false exit may be your busyness so consuming that you no longer hear my voice. A false exit may be choosing familiarity instead of stepping into what I am inviting you toward. A false exit may be choosing quick comfort instead of true healing. A false exit may be belittling your own dream because you fear being disappointed again. All those things may seem small, light, and harmless, yet they wear down the soul, the way tiny drops of water carve stone after falling for many years. They do not break by force, they break by duration. That is why Michael gives this warning. Discern what is truly safe and what is merely a warm blanket hiding your fear. My beloved child, Michael does not only protect you from great dangers, he also protects you from smooth detours, paths that look beautiful, easy, and pleasant, yet lead you away from destiny. Many souls drift from their journey not because they rebel, but because they grow tired, they grow afraid, and they choose the easier way. But not every easy way is the right way. Not every silence is peace. Not every compromise is wisdom. Not every retreat is refinement. Michael sees all of this beforehand. He sees the points where your soul is most likely to collapse, to wander, to settle. He sees the places where small choices can create large misalignments. He sees the moments when you believe you are protecting your heart but are, in truth, imprisoning it. And that is why he stands guard at the intersection of two paths to warn you, to remind you, to call you back, to stop you from stepping into false exits that cause the soul to fall out of rhythm. My child, the obedience I spoke of earlier is not formed only through great decisions. It is built through small choices, choices no one sees, yet heaven records with clarity. When those choices tune the tone of your soul in the right direction, heaven itself moves accordingly. But when they shift even slightly off course, heaven sends warnings through Michael, through intuition, through those subtle disturbances within your heart. So, listen carefully. A soul never loses its way in a single day. It gets lost through small steps taken in the wrong direction. And a soul never returns through one grand leap. It returns through each small choice that turns back to the right path. From this moment on, let Michael lead you back into alignment. Let today's small choice become the response that resonates with the right frequency. Let your soul return to its true tone so that blessing, promise, and divine transition can locate the one they were destined for. My beloved child, when I reveal to you the nature of spiritual warfare, I do not want you to imagine old images of swords, armor, thunder, or dramatic darkness attacking with loud force like the stories you once heard. The real battle is far more subtle, far more quiet, yet far more profound. It does not occur only somewhere in the heavens, but moves through each thought you accept, each belief you nurture, and each word you release. Think of it this way. Every thought is a wave, every belief is a frequency, every word is a signal sent forth. The entire spiritual realm responds to these waves. When your thoughts, beliefs, and declarations align with the frequency of the truth I speak, you step into the flow of the kingdom, where blessing, protection, and destiny are released naturally. But when they drift even slightly away from truth, you begin to hear distortion, like a signal gone static, and it is in that very place that the invisible battle becomes most intense. You cannot see it, but there is constant movement around you. Every time you think, "I have been forgotten," your soul releases a wave that vibrates dangerously close to despair. Every time you believe, "Nothing good will ever come to me," you unintentionally place yourself on a frequency that is incompatible with what I am preparing. Every time you whisper, "It's probably not for me," even while your face still carries a polite smile, all of heaven can hear that slight distortion in the tone of your soul. But when you dare to believe quietly, even though I cannot see it, God is still at work, or when you are weak yet still say, "I don't understand everything, but I choose to trust," another wave is released, a wave that carries the frequency of trust. And heaven responds to that frequency. Angels move, including Michael, not only by rituals or loud declarations, but by the very waves of faith your soul sends out in the silence. The invisible battle is not only you against darkness, it is a continual pulling between two systems of waves. One side carries truth, hope, grace, and trust. The other carries doubt, fear, self-condemnation, and bitterness. Every thought you allow to linger becomes a small transmitter you raise up. Every time you agree with the lie that I am unworthy, God doesn't really remember me, or this is probably the best my life will ever get, you unintentionally open space for distorted waves to occupy. But every time you whisper to me, I still want to walk with you, or I want to see through your eyes even though I don't yet know how, you activate a different signal, one that heaven recognizes as a connection point, a place where I can pour more light, more strength, and more intervention. And, my child, it is within this very context that I want to speak to you about delays, especially delays in finances and destiny. You once asked me, why is it that I hold on to your promise, I pray, I declare, and yet the money is still stuck, the doors still closed, and opportunities keep slipping by? I do not rebuke you for that question. I understand it was born from weariness and longing, but I want you to look deeper and see that, many times, the delay is not my refusal, but the result of a prolonged battle of frequencies. There are blessings I have sealed with my signature, blessings already bearing your name, blessings decreed to come. But between coming and arriving, there is an invisible battleground where your thoughts, your faith, and your declarations are pulled back and forth. Every time you believe, the flow pushes forward a little. Every time you grow discouraged, the flow is hindered again. Every time you speak hope, you clear the path. Every time you speak despair, you place more stones on the same road you are trying to walk. Financial delays are often indicators that invisible cords are still wrapped around your vision and your sense of value. If I allow money to arrive before your soul is untangled, wealth becomes a mirror that magnifies fear, wounds, and emptiness. I do not delay to punish you. I delay to protect, to train, to recalibrate the inner frequency of your heart so that it aligns with what you are about to carry. I do not want you to receive a flow of provision only to be swallowed by it, controlled by it, or defined by it. I want you to receive it as a steward, as a free one, as someone who understands that money is a tool, not your foundation. So while you focus on numbers in the account, I focus on the frequency of the heart. Is it vibrating with trust or with panic? Is it singing hope or repeating old fear? And what about the delays in destiny? Why are there callings, turning points, and positions you believed were yours, yet the doors remain closed? My child, many times it is not because you lack ability, nor because you are late, nor because you have missed your chance. It is because there are seasons in which I use delay itself to reshape the direction of your thoughts, to shift the frequency of your words, to press your faith from the surface down into the roots. When every thought about yourself is still influenced by memories of rejection, when every imagination about the future is still covered with the fear of being left behind again, then, even if I open a door, you would enter with the posture of someone afraid, not of an heir, and a person walking in their calling while carrying fear, doubt, and self-condemnation will always feel inadequate, misplaced, unworthy, and sooner or later they will withdraw from what I gave them. Archangel Michael, in this unseen war, is not only the warrior who strikes back against darkness as you once imagined, he is also the one who stands among the waves, guarding the frequency of truth I have spoken over your life. Every time waves of doubt rise, every time invisible accusations echo in your mind, every time old voices whisper, nothing will ever change, Michael stands as a pillar, keeping the covenant I made with you from being pulled off balance by the noise. He fights not only to remove external attacks, but to preserve the sound field of truth around your soul, so that every time you choose to believe, every time you speak according to what I have declared, those waves have something to anchor themselves to space, to resonate and grow. Therefore, my child, when you face delay, do not look at it merely as an empty space between the promise and the outcome. See it as a battlefield of frequencies where every thought, every word, every breath of trust or surrender carries meaning. Every time you say, I still believe God is good even when I see nothing yet. You send a wave upward into heaven and downward into your own soul, breaking little by little the invisible walls that have been blocking the flow of blessing. Every time you pause, take a deep breath, refuse to repeat the words, "Maybe it won't happen," and instead choose the simple confession, "I remain with you." You take your stand on one side of the unseen battlefield, the very side on which Michael is fighting to guard your destiny. I do not take those waves lightly, my child. I do not take lightly the words you whisper in weariness. I do not take lightly the moments you try to lift your frequency from darkness into a bit of light. And it is precisely when those waves accumulate to a certain level, precisely when your soul has been tuned deeply enough, precisely when the delays have finished their work of refinement, that the flow which has been stuck will be released, that the delay will give way to breakthrough, and what I have ordained for your finances, your destiny, your life will begin to move to a new rhythm, not because I suddenly changed my mind, but because you have stepped into the frequency where your thoughts, your faith, and your declarations align with the melody of heaven. My beloved child, when I speak of the work of Archangel Michael in the invisible battle, I do not want you to imagine him as a warrior who rushes in at the last moment to rescue you from despair, as if you were always standing on the edge waiting for disaster. You do not live inside such a script, and Michael does not operate that way. His work is far more subtle, more profound, and far more strategic. He does not come to pull you out of trouble after everything has collapsed. He comes to purify the atmosphere, to clear away distortions, conflicting energies, opposing wavelengths, twisted voices, all the things that once stood between you and what belongs to you. Imagine your life as a room filled with signals. In that room are signals from me, light, wisdom, guidance, assurance. Yet there are also other signals, your fears, your old memories, the words that once wounded you, the fogginess of the future, the invisible noise of the world, the dissonant energy from others, the lies, the darkness whispered in moments of weakness. All of these blend together like crowded, overlapping waves, colliding, pushing, and distorting, making it hard for your soul to discern the voice of heaven from the echo of fear. And it is in that very place of chaos that Michael acts. He does not wait until you collapse to come running. He does not stomp out the fire only after it has reached your feet. He goes ahead. He purifies. He clears. He removes interference before it hardens into chains. There are things that should have reached you long ago, but they were stuck not because I withheld them, but because the space around you was saturated with mixed frequencies, incompatible energies that prevented what belonged to you from finding its path. Michael's assignment is to open that path not by forcing blessings to reach you, but by cleansing the atmosphere so that blessings naturally find their way home. Like one who untangles invisible knots, Michael makes your spiritual space clear, unobstructed, and uncluttered. He pushes back what does not belong to you, the fog, the confusion, the mental pressure, the distorted voices, the clinging memories, the echoes of old failures. He does not work through noise, but through precision, not with force, but with steadiness, not to frighten you, but to give your soul room to breathe, room to stand, room to receive. For if the atmosphere is not clean, blessings become too heavy. For a soul already surrounded by fragments of its inner battles. My child, this is why there are moments when you suddenly feel lighter, even though nothing outside has changed. This is why there are mornings when you awaken with an unusual clarity, as though the layer of fog that covered your mind the night before has dissolved. This is why situations you had no idea how to resolve suddenly present a direction. It is not sudden, it is Michael purifying the atmosphere, preparing the environment so that what I have ordained for you can come without distortion, obstruction, or harm to your soul. Now I want you to understand something even more important. Heaven's intervention is not always the kind that appears openly before your eyes. Many times, it is a quiet orchestration taking place in the background of the spiritual realm. And within that very background lies a powerful mechanism that you must understand, the mechanism of a favorable verdict. My child, heaven has a court not in the earthly sense of cold justice, but as a place where every truth is seen clearly, where your motives, your pain, your sincerity, your endurance, and your faith are weighed. according to light rather than the noise of the world. There, every time you stand in exhaustion yet choose to believe, every time you are wounded yet choose to love, every time you feel weak yet refuse to run, every time you see yourself as small yet still ask for strength, all of these become evidence before heaven. Darkness may accuse you. This soul is weak. This soul is doubtful. This soul is unworthy. This soul is bound to the past. But in the courts of heaven, the accusations carry no weight strong enough to shake the truth. For the favorable verdict is not based on the mistakes you once made, but on the direction of your heart. It is not based on the times you fell, but on the times you rose again. It is not based on the judgments spoken over you by others, but on the light I see within you. It is not based on your moments of weakness, but on the present moments you chose to return to me. And in that process, Michael is not only a warrior, he is the executor of the verdict. When heaven says, "This blessing belongs to you," Michael ensures it cannot be stolen. When heaven says, "It is time for release," Michael goes ahead to clear the path. When I decree, "Return what was lost," Michael gathers the pieces still entangled in the unseen realm. When the decree for repayment is sealed, Michael pushes back everything that might delay its fulfillment. Like a messenger standing between heaven and earth, Michael ensures that the favorable verdict descends in the form of reality, not just a spiritual state, but the tangible appearance of what you need: opportunity, provision, open doors, divine encounters, restoration, clarity. Wherever there is a favorable verdict, there is movement. Wherever there is movement, there is advancement. And wherever there is advancement, you will see Michael's presence, sometimes unmistakably clear, sometimes quietly subtle, but always precise. My child, never think that blessings arrive by accident. Nothing simply drops into your life without passing through the process. Heaven has ordained. Every favorable verdict is the result of a long journey. The nights you prayed when no one heard, the choices you made to stand on the side of light, even through pain, the moments you forgave while the wound was still fresh, the times you kept your heart clean when you had every right to be angry, the trembling steps you took toward what I spoke, even when your legs shook. All these things create the resonance that causes heaven to issue its verdict, and every favorable verdict is protected, enforced, and upheld by Michael, ensuring that no force, no voice, no darkness can overturn it. So, my child, when you sense your atmosphere becoming brighter, lighter, clearer, know that Michael is at work. When you feel the door begin to shift, know that the verdict is being executed. When you sense a strange stillness even while things are not yet resolved, know that the space has been cleared so what belongs to you can come. A new season never comes alone. It arrives on the wings of a favorable verdict and the quiet intervention of Michael. My beloved child, now I want to open before you an image that many have misunderstood: the image of the heavenly court. You have heard some describe it as a frightening place, a courtroom where the soul trembles under heavy sentences. But that is not how heaven sees you, and it is certainly not how I desire you to understand the spiritual process unfolding around your life. The heavenly court is not the place where you are judged to be rejected. It is the place where your soul is vindicated from invisible accusations, subtle lies, and unfair verdicts darkness has placed upon your worth since the days you were too young to defend yourself. It is like a courtroom where truth is illuminated, where accusations are silenced, where your true identity is affirmed under an undeniable light. Do you know why I use the image of a court to describe this? Not because I want to burden you, but because I want you to understand that a divine process of justice is at work, one not built on emotion, not influenced by public opinion, not shaped by your painful memories, and not based on how people once treated you. The heavenly court is where your worth is measured by light rather than shadow, by truth rather than fear, by the true intentions of your heart rather than the moments you fell. In that courtroom, you do not stand alone. You do not have to defend yourself. You do not have to prove that you are good, worthy, or blameless. You only need to stand still in the truth, and the truth is that I see everything others cannot see. I see the intentions. I see the pain. I see the sincerity. I see the moments you chose goodness in the midst of darkness. I see how you tried to keep your heart upright when you could have easily retaliated. I see every tear you shed when no one was watching, every effort you made to overcome old fears, every silent prayer, and every trembling step you took. In the courts of heaven, all of these become the very testimony that speaks on your behalf. Darkness may accuse you with countless words. This soul is not good enough. This soul has made mistakes. This soul is unworthy of blessing. This soul is marked by the past. This soul is not strong enough. But, my child, before the light, such accusations fall like ashes, for the light does not judge a soul by its wounds, but by its capacity to rise again. The light does not see you through your old failures, but through the direction you are moving now. The light does not see you through the voice of accusation, but through the truth I declared over your life long before you ever came into being. And this is what I want you to understand deeply. Heaven's verdict is never based on the condemnations you once heard, but on what I see within you. And what I see is always greater, deeper, and far more beautiful than what you believe about yourself. Inside that courtroom, there is a moment many souls never realize, the moment when a favorable verdict is released. It is not a moment filled with thunder or earth-shaking force, but like a quiet yet authoritative decree. Return to this soul what was lost. Remove the burdens that do not belong to it. Release its true value. When that verdict is given, not only are treasures unlocked, the false judgments placed upon your worth are shattered. Where did those judgments come from? From words your parents spoke without knowing their impact, from childhood wounds, from failures that made you misunderstand yourself, from relationships that led you to believe your kindness wasn't enough, from times you were misunderstood, from the voice of society that taught you to shrink yourself just to be more acceptable. None of those judgments were ever my voice, but because you lived under them for so long, your soul mistook them for truth, and the court of heaven is precisely the place where they are overturned. Do you know what happens when a false judgment is overruled? The spiritual atmosphere around your life shifts. Doors that once stayed shut without explanation begin to open. Opportunities that once passed you by begin to return with a different speed. People who once failed to see your worth begin to change how they treat you. Delayed things start moving again, not because you suddenly became luckier, but because the false verdict that once stood between you and what belonged to you no longer has any legal right to exist. Deliverance is not only the unlocking of treasure, it is the breaking of invisible chains around your worth. Deliverance is not only about me bringing new things into your life, it is about me removing what once held you at an old level. Deliverance is not only about financial flow returning, it is about your heart expanding enough to receive without fear, without avoidance, without doubting whether you deserve it. And at the very moment the favorable verdict is given, Michael stands there to carry it out. He does not merely guard the blessing, he guards the truth about you. He stands between accusation and your soul, as if declaring, this charge is no longer valid, this sin has been removed from the record, this false judgment is nullified, the true identity has been restored. He enters the hidden places within you, those corners you have not yet examined, where you still believe you are small, ordinary, unseen, and unchosen, and he brings light there to correct the way you see yourself. For my child, you cannot step into a great destiny if you still believe you are only worthy of small things. You cannot hold treasure if you see yourself as someone forbidden to touch abundance. You cannot stand in a high place if you think you belong only in the shadows. You cannot receive restoration if you believe you are not good enough to be restored. That is why heaven not only opens the treasury, heaven must first overturn the false judgments. Only when your true value is returned to you can blessing have a foundation to remain. Only when your identity is restored can new doors open without frightening your soul. And only when the truth about you is reestablished can you step into what was meant for you without trembling, without retreating, without questioning whether this is truly meant for you. This part of the journey is not loud. It is like a quiet courtroom where truth wins little by little. Yet it is these very proceedings that transform the core of your life. For when the favorable verdict is released, nothing can stop it. No darkness has the right to argue. No accusation remains lawful. No false judgment has a place anymore. Your soul steps out of the heavenly courtroom not with fear, but with relief like someone who has just been vindicated, restored to their true name, and freed from layers of burdens they once believed they were meant to carry for a lifetime. My beloved child, let me tell you something many souls spend their whole lives searching for, but only a few ever truly understand. A sacred door does not open because of emotion, nor because of intense longing, but because of a heart laid bare before the living God. Many believe they must feel strong enough, believe deeply enough, pray long enough, or desire passionately enough to see heaven move. But if heaven operated only according to the intensity of emotion, then the seasons when your soul is weary would be the very seasons you could not reach me. And that is not the truth. What I seek in you is not an emotional outburst, but the absolute honesty of a soul that has nothing left to hide, nothing left to decorate, nothing left to keep for itself. The door opens only when the soul stands before me, without the false garments, without justifications, without the masks society praises, without the defensive walls that once helped you survive. You only need to come to me with the raw truth of who you are, your fragility, your helplessness, the reality that at times you do not know how to believe, do not know how to take the next step, and do not understand why you have had to wait so long. I do not need you to appear strong. I only need you to be real. Because, my child, authenticity is the language of heaven. When you come to me with an uncovered heart, the heavens move instantly, for that humble soul is speaking the very frequency heaven hears most clearly. That is why I once declared, I will instruct you and teach you the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Psalm 32:8. You do not need to prove anything. You only need to allow me to see you as you truly are, and that alone becomes the key that opens the door. And here is the mystery darkness never wants you to know. Presence is the key, not strategies, not prayer formulas, not elaborate declarations, but your presence before me whole, undistracted, unguarded, not running away from your own honest emotions. There are moments when you do not know what to say. Those are the moments heaven hears you most clearly. There are days when you cannot pray out loud. Those are the times I listen most deeply. There are moments when you simply sit still, take a long breath, and whisper in your heart, Lord, I'm here. And I respond, I am here. The more you remain in my presence, the more your soul is recalibrated. The frequencies distorted by fear, pain, or doubt begin to fall back into place. And when the soul aligns with truth, the door opens as gently as a breath, not forced, not strained, not driven by fear of being forgotten. The door opens because you are standing in the very position you were always meant to hold, the position of a soul not trying to be anything other than itself before its creator. Hold this deeply within you. The door does not open when you try to impress heaven. The door opens when your soul returns to its original essence. You were not created to navigate life in fear, but to live in the rhythm of holiness where every movement of your being harmonizes with something greater than yourself. Presence is not an action, it is a state of being. It is the place where your soul stands before the light without shrinking back in shame and without performing to hide its insecurity. And when the door opens, my child, not only do blessings shift, your very quality of life shifts. You step out of an old layer of awareness and into a new reality where nothing is governed by fear, where you no longer measure your value by the reactions of others, where you no longer live according to the instability of emotion, but according to a peace anchored deep within your very bones. This is the spiritual transformation that many people witness but few truly understand. When blessings arrive before the soul is changed, people often lose them as quickly as they receive them. But when the soul has been restructured, blessings find an environment where they can dwell long and deep like a seed, finding the right soil, like water finding the riverbed carved just for it. The door does not open merely to bring something new into your life. It opens to usher you into a new version of yourself. What I prepare for you is not merely external provision. It is a new essence of life, a new way of seeing, a new rhythm of breathing, an inner freedom no longer dependent on circumstance. You become the kind of person whom abundance cannot make arrogant, whom delay cannot shake, whom failure cannot break, and whom praise cannot mislead. You become a soul who knows where you come from and to whom you belong. And when the door opens, you will recognize something even deeper. The things you once called loss were actually preparation. The things you once called delay were divine arrangements. The things you once mistook as silence were the quiet movements of heaven working behind the scenes. You will look back and realize that not a single tear was wasted, not a single prayer was forgotten, not a single dry season was meaningless. Everything was arranged to lead you to this very moment, the moment the door opens and you step into a truth greater than yourself. Do not think that the opening of the door is merely a physical gateway parting so that blessings can enter. In reality, it is like a veil being drawn aside so you can finally see what has always existed but has never appeared within the sightline of your soul. It is like the dawn breaking after a long night. The light did not begin to exist in the instant the sun rose. It was always there, only your eyes could not yet perceive it. I do the same with your soul. When the door opens, you receive not only blessings but also the light to live in revelation, where you understand each step you take, understand why I allow certain things to unfold, understand the invisible protection you never knew was surrounding you. You will walk in awareness, not anxiety. You will walk in recognition, not confusion. You will walk in certainty, not speculation. And from there, my child, the way you live will change as well. No longer will you chase voices that pressure you. No longer will you try to please places where you do not belong. No longer will you fear being left behind. You will walk as one who knows they carry a sacred mark, written into the very things I am accomplishing on the earth. You will not receive blessings the old way, because the nature of who you are has entered a new dimension of living a life rooted in light, anchored in truth, nourished by presence. So, precious soul, come near me, not with what you think I want to see, but with what is truly present in your heart. Let my presence become the second breath of your soul. Let honesty become the key that opens the door you once thought you had to knock on for a very long time. The door is opening not because you are perfect, but because you are present, not because you are strong, but because you are sincere, not because you know how to ask, but because you know how to be still. Not because your faith is large, but because your soul is bare, enough for me to touch the places no one else can reach. And when you stand in that presence, my child, everything I have ordained for you will flow into your life like water moving through the riverbed, carved for it, not rushed, not forced, not arriving so suddenly that it frightens you, but with the majesty, the order, and the gentleness of one who knows exactly what your soul is able to carry. My beloved child, when I speak of restoration or recompense, I do not want you to understand it the way humans typically use the word. In the earthly realm, recompense means returning what was lost, compensating for damages, or giving back what was taken away. But in the heavenly kingdom, the principle of restoration is entirely different. Heaven does not merely return what you lost. Heaven multiplies what was once buried, once covered, once forgotten, as though time itself is, not only reimbursed, but recreated in ways far beyond what your imagination can grasp. Heaven's restoration is not a return to the previous state, but a lifting of your life into a realm you could not have reached without the very losses that once wounded you. I do not restore you to where you used to be. I bring you to a place that never existed before. That is why, my child, when heaven says recompense, it means that everything that once seemed lost will return with multiplied weight, joy multiplied, peace multiplied, gifts multiplied, opportunities multiplied. Everything is increased, because I restore according to purpose, not according to quantity. Understand this deeply. Nothing you have lost has truly disappeared. In the spiritual realm, no sorrow ever dissolves into nothingness. It merely transforms, like energy that cannot be destroyed, but only shifted from one form into another. Every tear you shed, every silent endurance, every act of kindness you sowed when no one knew, every moment you chose what was right, even when it cost you greatly, all of these have become accumulated energy in the treasury of heaven. It is not the energy of effort, but the energy of faithfulness. Not the energy of achievement, but the energy of the heart. Do you know why I call tears seeds? Because tears are not merely emotional expressions, they are the language of the soul. When your heart cracks open yet still turns toward the light, each drop that falls to the ground becomes a declaration. I still believe. and when you no longer have strength to form words, yet the tears still fall before me. That is not weakness, it is the purest kind of prayer. In those moments, heaven records everything, not only in memory, but in spiritual law, a mechanism that never errs. For every seed of goodness you sow, whether through words, actions, or quiet choices, carries within it a rightful claim for restoration. Not a claim like collecting a debt, but a claim that allows heaven to intervene on your behalf. My child, there are seasons when you feel you only pour out, only sacrifice, only strive, only try, and nothing seems to return to you. You think you have been forgotten, overlooked, dismissed, or abandoned. But the truth is that none of it has vanished into emptiness. It has only been gathering into a larger current, waiting for the appointed moment to surge forth like a river breaking its banks. Heaven does not repay little by little. Heaven repays through accumulation and then release. Imagine a field that has been seeded for years, yet the soil was not ready, the timing was not mature, the climate not yet aligned. On the surface, it looks as though nothing is happening, but beneath the soil, a quiet ecosystem is forming, roots spreading deeper, earth softening, moisture saturating, nutrients gathering. Then, at a single appointed moment, everything breaks forth overnight as though the entire field had been waiting for that exact moment all along. Your soul is the same. Everything you have sown through the years has not been lost. It has only been waiting for heaven's timing to blossom all at once. And when restoration comes, it does not come as giving back the chair you lost, returning the opportunity that slipped away, or replacing the time you feel you wasted. No, it comes by placing you into a whole new landscape of life, where the former losses no longer have the power to confine you. My child, heaven does not operate on the logic of replacement, but on the logic of increase. What you lost in one season becomes the very source of life for the next. What you thought was failure has become nourishment for your soul's growth. The people you believed abandoned you were merely leaving the space needed for those appointed to your journey to arrive. The empty places that once caused you such pain are becoming the softened soil into which I am planting something new. My beloved child, when I say that restoration is coming, it does not mean you will receive the scattered fragments of what was once broken. It means you will receive a new version, fuller, wider, deeper, of the very thing you once lost. There are dreams you thought had died. They did not die. They were being reshaped. There are relationships you believed were shattered forever. They were not destroyed. They were separated so you could learn how to love in a healthy. There are doors that closed and caused you pain. They did not close to punish you, but to protect you. Every sorrow becomes a passageway into a greater blessing if you view it through the light of divine restoration. And my child, your old tears are not merely wiped away. They are transformed into inheritance. Just as gold is refined through fire, your soul has walked through long seasons to become deeper, stronger, and wider. What you endured is not only seen by me, it becomes the very basis upon which heaven opens the gates of recompense. The moment you whisper, "I have nothing left," is the very moment I say, "You now have everything I need to begin." For my restoration does not come when you are strong, but when you are true. It does not arrive when you have accumulated enough, but when you trust enough to release. It does not come because you demand, but because you open your heart to receive. And, my child, when that restoration arrives, it will come like waters breaking past the riverbank, like light piercing through the night, like heaven opening its windows to breathe life into the parts of you that thought they had died. You will look back and see that not a single moment in your life was wasted. No loss was meaningless. No wound went without glory being returned for it. This is the sacred principle of restoration. Heaven does not merely give back. Heaven recreates, rebirths, and reshapes so that the very things once buried become the foundation of the new life I am preparing for you. O precious soul, your restoration is drawing near, and it is far greater than anything you have ever dared to imagine. My beloved child, now I want to unveil a deeper layer of restoration, one that people seldom consider, because most of humanity expects recompense to appear in the form of material gain or visible opportunity. But the greatest restoration heaven gives has never been measured in possessions. It lies in what no one can quantify by numbers, no one can weigh by ownership, and no one can judge by achievement. When heaven restores, it restores in ways no one expects. Honor elevated, dignity restored, the right relationships brought into your life, and an entirely new way of living opening before you like an uncharted land. This is the restoration that is deepest, strongest, and most precious. Remember, the seasons when your honor was wounded, not because you did wrong, but because you were misunderstood, judged through the narrow lens of others, or had your worth distorted by careless words. There were moments when labels were placed on you that never belonged to you. Moments when you were underestimated by people who could not see your true value. Moments when you endured unfair silence from those you loved. These experiences weighed heavily on your soul, not because of the hurt itself, but because your honor felt dimmed. But heaven's restoration does not merely return your honor. It reverses every intention of the darkness. It raises your honor to a place no one ever imagined. Those who once looked at you with limited vision will be astonished by what you receive. Those who once turned away will have to acknowledge that the grace upon your life is not coincidence, but a divine imprint. This is a form of recompense that no one ever anticipates. You are not merely given back what you lost. You are lifted to a place higher than where you once stood. You are not elevated by performance or achievement, but by a divine affirmation that you have been chosen to stand where the light rests. In the same way, there have been seasons when you felt your dignity was trampled by circumstances that forced you to shrink yourself, to tolerate what was never aligned with your true nature, to remain silent in order to keep the peace, or to sacrifice your self-respect just to hold on to something unworthy. Those seasons leave invisible marks upon the soul, as though a part of you had been taken away. But heaven sees all of it, and when recompense comes, it does not merely restore your dignity, it restores it in a way that ensures you will never have to bow your head again. You walk upright because you know you are loved, seen, and valued. That dignity does not come from human praise, but from heaven's confirmation that you were created with a worth that cannot be negotiated. In that moment, you will realize that the greatest recompense is not what you receive in your hands, but what is returned to your heart, your self-respect, your strength, your spiritual confidence, and the peace that flows from knowing you are worthy of what is good. It is not arrogance, it is a right understanding of your true value. And then there are the right relationships. My child, heaven compensates not only with resources but with people. There are individuals sent to you only after you have walked through enough wrong relationships, not because I wanted you to suffer, but because your soul needed to learn how to distinguish true love from exploitation, genuine loyalty from temporary convenience. When you have matured enough to recognize your own worth, heaven will bring people who belong to your journey, people who speak the language of your soul, who recognize the light within you, who walk beside you without making you smaller. Heaven's recompense, in the form of people, always arrives like a miracle, because it is one of the clearest signs that your life is stepping into a new chapter. That is why I tell you, those who truly belong in your life will arrive at the right time, not earlier, not later. And when they come, you will know. There will be no striving, no competing, no need to prove yourself. Souls recognize each other without effort. That too is a form of recompense. And finally, my beloved child, one of the greatest forms of heavenly recompense is the gift of a new way of living. It is a life no longer governed by painful memories, no longer tied to fear, no longer controlled by the opinions of others. It is a life rooted in inner freedom, the freedom to think clearly, to love boldly, to choose wisely, and to step into your calling without being threatened by your past or your doubts. This new way of living is not an outward change, it is the reshaping of the soul. That is the greatest recompense, a new version of yourself, lighter, deeper, and safer within my presence. But, my child, there is a question many souls have asked. Why does heaven wait so long to answer? Why not respond the moment you hurt? Why not open the door when you first prayed? Why does recompense not arrive at the exact moment you believe you need it most? The answer, my child, lies in the sacred principle of timing. Heaven does not move according to your fleeting emotions, but according to the maturity of your soul. If a blessing comes too early, it can become a burden. If the right person arrives too soon, You may not recognize them. If honor is restored too early, pride may cause you to stumble. If promotion comes before you are ready, you may lose yourself. Heaven is never slow. Heaven simply waits until the blessing will no longer wound you. My child, great blessings always come hand in hand with great maturity, and great recompense requires a soul deep enough, steady enough, awakened enough to carry it without trembling. If you receive too soon, it may crush your heart, but if it arrives at the right moment, it becomes your wings. That is why heaven waits, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to delay you, but to prepare you, not to test you, but to ensure that when recompense comes, you will not lose it, and it will not lose you. Precious soul, the recompense that is coming is not only in the form of blessings, but in the form of a new life. And when you step into it, you will understand why heaven waited so long, because great things always arrive at the moment when the soul is strong enough to hold them with peace. My beloved child, let me bring you to the final stretch of this journey where blessing is seen in its true light, not through the narrow lens of human understanding. For throughout life, many have mistaken blessing for money, possessions, or favorable circumstances. Yet those things are only the surface of a far greater reality. True blessing is not something added to your life, it is something released within your soul. True blessing carries 3 marks: freedom, peace, and restored dignity. And when these 3 begin to operate in you, your true value awakens, and your real destiny begins to shine. Blessing is freedom, freedom from the fears that once tightened around your heart, freedom from the memories that once constricted your soul, freedom from the voices that once made you doubt your own worth. Blessing is not having more, it is no longer being enslaved by what once bound you. When you are no longer controlled by the fear of loss, no longer trembling before rejection, no longer measuring yourself by what others say, you are stepping into the freedom that heaven calls blessing. Blessing is peace, a peace that does not depend on circumstances, that does not rise and fall with praise or criticism, that does not shake with the unpredictability of life. True peace is not the quietness of the outside, but the stability of the inner being, where your soul stands firm even when the winds shift. This peace does not come from wealth, status, or relationships. It comes from the deep awareness that you belong to. Me and I belong to you. When your soul lives in that truth, you can walk through storms while your heart remains still, like tranquil waters beneath the morning light. And blessing is dignity, a dignity no one gives, so no one can take away. Dignity is not pride. It is the recognition that you deserve honor, love, and kindness. When dignity is restored, you no longer accept what is small, toxic, or unworthy just to keep something or someone from leaving. You no longer trade your self-respect for affection, approval, or visibility. You stand in the truth that your soul carries a value that cannot be negotiated. My child, when these 3, freedom, peace, and dignity, come together, they form the greatest blessing heaven gives to a person. Money is only a small fragment of the picture. It supports, it nourishes, it creates conditions, but it is never the center. True blessing is a shift in the dimension of your life. This is why I tell you, blessing is not a better life, but an entirely different life. Blessing is when you step into a new dimension where you see everything through the lens of light. What once worried you becomes small. What once wounded you loses its power. What once frightened you can no longer dominate your path. You no longer live in reaction, you live in awareness. You no longer chase emotions, you walk in wisdom. When true blessing arrives, you do not simply have more, you become different. Your perception shifts at its deepest level. You see life from above, not from the pit of old wounds. You see yourself through the eyes of the Creator, not through the eyes of those who once hurt you. You see the future with faith, not fear. And, my child, when you cross into a new door, your soul also steps into a new nature. I want you to understand clearly what happens inside you when this transition is complete. First, the way you see changes. What once felt like a dead end now becomes part of the process. What once brought pain becomes a lesson. What once frightened you becomes a reminder that you are stronger than you believed. Light helps you see everything in its proper place. You are no longer overly sorrowful about what is past, no longer overly anxious about what has not yet arrived, no longer consumed by what you cannot control. You see with clarity, with truth, and with purpose. After that, the way you think begins to change. You no longer think through the old patterns of lack, of fearing loss, of always expecting something bad to happen. Your mind is reset to receive what is good, to believe in what is good, and to expect what is good. Not an expectation built on illusion, but on the truth that you are walking under the covering of heaven. You begin to think with discernment, with depth, with clarity, because your mind is no longer being driven by old wounds. Then the way you respond changes as well. When others hurt you, you no longer react out of self-protection, but out of peace. When difficult circumstances arrive, you no longer panic. Instead, you step back to see the bigger picture. When others misunderstand you, you no longer shrink, but remain standing in truth. Your reactions no longer arise from fear, but from the strength that has been built within your soul. This is the deep transformation heaven desires to accomplish in you. Not a surface-level change, but a change of essence. Not a change in behavior, but a change in nature. Not a change of the path, but a change in the way you walk upon that path. And when the old burdens fall off, new vision opens. Up, my child. When I remove from your soul the chains of the past, the memories, the false beliefs, the painful conclusions, you will see farther, wider, and higher. You will no longer look at life through the twisted lens of old wounds, but through the clear light of truth. New possibilities begin to unfold, new doors begin to appear, and new invitations from heaven begin to draw near to you. You start recognizing things you have never seen before, the opportunity hidden inside adversity, the meaning hidden inside the trial, the guidance hidden inside the silence, and the protection hidden inside the delay. That new vision is the greatest blessing of the soul, because once you learn to see by the light, you cannot return to the darkness. You can no longer live small, no longer live withdrawn, no longer live ruled by fear. You step into a life with purpose, with guidance, and with an inner peace that remains. Now you shall pray. My Lord, today I come before you with all the trembling and longing in my heart. I recognize that my life has traveled far too long on an old orbit, old habits, old thoughts, old invisible cycles that I once mistook for personality, but were in truth only fears repeating themselves. Please lead me out of that orbit and draw me closer to the land I never dared to believe I could set foot in. I thank you for arranging the entire spiritual atmosphere so that I would appear at the right moment, in the right place, in the right condition of heart, to hear this calling. Please help me not to treat this moment as something ordinary, but to understand that I am standing on the threshold between an old story and a new chapter heaven has already written for me. Lord, may the small word yes in my heart today have the power to break years of exhausting repetition, the power to push me out of my old comfort zone so that I may step into the path you have designed, no longer living merely to survive, but living as one who is truly participating in your story. Father, I thank you for revealing to me that there is a realm the earthly clock cannot measure, a place where time and eternity touch, where moments that seem ordinary turn into gateways of profound transformation. Today, I ask that you help me become aware that I am standing right in that intersection. I have often waited for dramatic events, loud signs, and grand breakthroughs to believe that my life is changing. Yet, you teach me that the quiet decisions of the heart, the whispered yes, the choice to keep believing even when nothing seems different, are the very hinges on which my story turns. Please teach me to value the small choices, the quiet steps, the moments of staying when my mind wants to give up. Help me understand that a simple act of faith, a silent response, a step taken before the path becomes visible, can open an entire corridor of destiny. Lord, if this is the moment when earthly time meets heaven's appointed time in my life, then let my heart not sleep. Let my ears not grow dull. Let my mind not drift away, but let me recognize, bow, and say, I am ready to follow you. Lord God, the one who is knocking at the door of my heart, I confess that many times I have allowed my life to be swept away by noise, the noise of worries, comparisons, social media, alluring invitations, and the whispers of fear and hurt. I have listened to so many voices, yet rarely paused to ask, Lord, is this truly from you? Today, I ask you to awaken the spiritual awareness within me. Let my soul learn to distinguish between passing emotions and the knock of your presence. Help me discern between noise and calling, between empty promises and the gentle but unwavering prompting of the Holy Spirit. I am not asking to become spiritually special. I am simply asking for an honest heart that knows how to ask you, how to seek you, how to incline itself toward you. Please give me the courage to pause in the midst of the current, to ask one sincere question. Lord, are you calling me into something new? And when I sense that very light but very real hand resting on my shoulder, where I feel both trembling and peace, let me recognize that it is a signal from heaven, a confirmation that you are leading me deeper into your good and perfect will. Father, I have grown so accustomed to viewing my life through calendars, monthly plans, anniversaries, and pressing deadlines. But today, I ask that you open the eyes of my spirit so I may see the spiritual markings heaven has placed along the timeline of my life. Please help me discern the days that appear ordinary on the surface but are, in truth, intersections between what has been and what is about to unfold, between the prayers I once released and the answers waiting to be opened. Lord, if today is one of the days you have sealed with a divine imprint, let my soul feel that strange and holy pull, so I will not overlook it, rush past it, or dismiss it as just another day. Teach me to believe that you are not late and I am not behind, and that there are blessings which only unfold when earthly time and heavenly timing align, like the crescendo of a perfectly composed song. In the seasons when it seems nothing is changing, help my eyes see beyond what is visible, to believe that you are arranging a new sky over my soul, and that when your appointed moment comes, every star you have set in the destiny of my life will shine all at once. Lord, many times I have been impatient, asking you to open doors immediately, to let me enter a new season at once, to fulfill my desires quickly. I confess that I have viewed blessing as a simple give and receive, forgetting that you are preparing me so that the very gift will not become a burden. Today, I bow before the process you are carrying out within me. Please heal the wounds that have not yet been touched. Transform the inner patterns that continue to lead me toward self-sabotage. Shine your light into the corners I have avoided. Help me understand that you do not delay to punish me, but you slow the pace to protect me from my own immaturity and fear. Every trial I have endured, every pain I have carried, every moment of being overlooked, deprived, or misunderstood, please help me revisit them as lessons that have shaped my soul to become deeper, wiser, and more tender. Lord, may I no longer pray only for an open door. Teach me to pray. Prepare me so that when blessing arrives, I will have roots strong enough to hold it, wisdom deep enough to steward it, and a gentleness steady enough to keep me from losing myself. Beloved Father, if there is a moment in my life that you have pre-appointed, a moment when heavenly movements, long-standing prayers, persistent endurance, angelic intervention, and your divine orchestration converge, then grant me the grace to be fully present in that very moment. Rescue me from distraction, scattered thoughts, and the habit of treating holy things lightly. Help me understand that not every moment carries the same weight. There are moments when even a small yes carries the force of many years of breakthrough. Give my heart the sensitivity to recognize when a spiritual sliding door is opening, so I will not hesitate, doubt, or remain standing outside, but dare to step forward in faith. If choosing to stay instead of walking away could become a turning point, help me choose to stay. If a simple act of attention can shift what has long been delayed, teach my mind to focus. Lord, do not allow the blessing you have ordained to pass me by because I was absent from the very moment you called my name. Let me be fully present with my heart, my faith, and my obedience in the moment you desire to open a new path for my life. Lord, I thank you for appointing Archangel Michael as a warrior and protector in the spiritual realm. Today, I ask that you send Michael to stand beside me and cut away the invisible chains that have bound the vision of my soul. For years, I have viewed myself through the lens of my wounds, believing false conclusions that I am always second, never enough, easily replaced, and that blessings belong to others. I ask Michael, with the radiant sword you have placed in his hand, to sever the thoughts that have, repeated for years, the misconceptions about my worth, and the distorted images of you as a God who always demands, always delays, always withholds. Please remove every soft, quiet tether lying dormant in my mind, those ties that make me stand before an open door, yet fear to step through, those beliefs that cause me to doubt anything good meant for me. Lord, in your name, I renounce the invisible judgments I have placed upon myself. Cleanse my eyes from the dust of the past, so I may see you with renewed trust, see myself through the light of truth, and see the path ahead not as a trap to fear, but as a journey watched over and safeguarded by your hand. Father, I do not want to brush past blessings only to return to old cycles. I do not want to receive something new yet live in the fear of losing it, in the anxiety of having to keep it, prove it, or strive relentlessly to be worthy of what I have received. I ask that you prepare my spirit, my soul, and my mind to become a steward of an inheritance, not just a temporary recipient of a gift. Please let me understand deeply that what you entrust to me is not merely numbers, finances, or opportunities, but influence, trust, and the capacity to become a vessel through which grace flows from my life into the lives of others. Free me from the tendency to use new blessings to fill old voids, heal the wounds that make me want to use success to cover pain, abundance to mask the fear of lack, and praise to forget loneliness. Lord, give me a spiritual foundation so secure that whether doors open or close, whether I am celebrated or forgotten, whether I have much or little, my identity in you remains unchanged. I ask for blessing to walk hand in hand with maturity, so that every grace I receive becomes an opportunity to love more, give more, and reflect you more clearly. Lord of the hidden things, I confess that many times I have measured your presence by my emotions. When I feel warmth, comfort, and tenderness, it is easy for me to believe that you are working. But when my heart feels dry, when prayer becomes heavy, when I read the word and seem to grasp nothing, I quickly conclude that you are silent, that you are slow, that you have forgotten me. Today, I ask your forgiveness for such immature thinking, and I ask you to teach me to trust the silent movements of heaven. Help me know that even when I think I am standing still, you are moving mountains, shifting backdrops, changing horizons, arranging details my eyes are not yet ready to see. Help me believe that every weary breath, every unfinished, Lord, whispered in exhaustion, every tear that cannot fall is carried by the Holy Spirit before you as the deepest form of prayer. Teach me to live by faith rather than emotion. Teach me to stand firm through the silent nights with the assurance that behind the veil, you are orchestrating an entirely new landscape for my life. Help me learn to rest in your silence, knowing that silence is not absence, but the way you accomplish the most delicate, precise, and profound work in my soul. Father, I have asked you for many things, across many years, with many tears and much hope. I believe you have heard every request, missed none of my words, and forgotten none of my tears. But today, I ask you to bring me into a deeper understanding, that blessings do not come simply because I pray much, but because of a divine convergence between my prayers, your appointed timing, and the maturity of my soul. Please work in all three. Continue reshaping the substance of my prayers, so they align more with your will rather than remain a list of personal desires. Teach me to trust fully in your timing, not earlier, not later, but exact, and nurture within me a soul mature enough to hold blessings with peace, to carry open doors with humility, to handle authority with sincerity, and to remain tender even in high places. Lord, if today there is something I have not yet received, do not let me conclude that you have not heard. Let me understand instead that you are laying the stone foundation so that the house of blessing does not collapse. I ask that when the day comes where these three lines meet, my faith will be strong enough to receive, deep enough to sustain, and wide enough to share, so that every blessing becomes evidence of your wisdom and your kindness. Lord, you who know every year I have walked through, every loss, every stolen moment, every opportunity that seemed to slip away without purpose. I bow before you and ask for the storehouse of recompense that you have reserved for my soul. If the scales of heaven are shifting, if it is time for you to open the narrow seam of the hidden treasures stored in darkness, then let your light pour into the places I once assumed were dead, reviving the seeds I had sown in silence. I do not ask merely for earthly restoration, but for heavenly recompense. Restore the dignity that has been eroded, open new paths, instead of simply repairing old opportunities, heal the inner shame, rather than patching the surface. Teach me to understand that true treasure is not measured by the quantity of possessions, but by the quality of life in you. The ability to enter each day without burden, to look at myself without being chained by old guilt, to love without trembling, and to stand before the future without the lingering belief that I am not enough. Lord, unlock that treasure according to Isaiah 45:3, the treasures hidden in darkness, so that I may know you are the one who calls me by name. Let this recompense begin within me, so that when circumstances shift, my soul will be strong enough not to be swept away by what I receive. Beloved Father, I come to you as a child who has carried for far too long labels that were never mine. I have believed false conclusions about myself, that I come second, that I am less important, easily replaced, merely the extra. I have read my own worth through the lens of wounds instead of through your eyes. Today, I ask that you separate within me two things: the true value you placed in me from the beginning, and the distorted value shaped by the pain life has taught me. Give me courage to face the moss that has grown over the stone, the old voices, the memories that have bent my self-image, and place them back into your hands. Help me remove the old garments of the self, the garment of hardness, the garment of needing no one, the garment of always proving myself competent, the garment of pleasing others just to be allowed to stay. I know those garments once helped me survive, but now they confine me to a smaller version of who I truly am. Lord, call my true name again in this season, as you called Gideon, Abraham, Jacob, and Mary, not by their fears, but by the destiny you placed on them. Teach me to see myself in that same light, so that the map of destiny you have written may come into full clarity. From today forward, let me step out of the old stories that no longer belong to me, step out of the feeling of being overlooked, and live as one who is called, chosen, and sealed. Let every step I take from here follow the true name. You have given me a name that cannot be erased, cannot be stolen, cannot be replaced, for it was written in your heart before the foundation of the world. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so that together we may build a strong and thriving faith community.